let's get this going at 55 just in case. So no, if it's 5 minutes late, you don't. Okay, I don't even know. I gotta set that. So it is correct. New commercial today. We'll do it tomorrow.
Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
I need your help to get to the year 1985. You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening, Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio for the masses. Yeah, man, how you doing? How you doing? Today's Monday, May 9th, 2022. Let's do this, man. For KJCR, the Game Changer, and Unnext Networks, Ray Hobbs, who's going to be with us tonight. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Did you have a great weekend? I did. I worked my butt off. I haven't stopped. And here we are, Monday night, welcoming very special guest. Ray Hobbs is here for UFOs to the finish line. His name is Ray Hobbs. Coming up later on tonight, Micah Hanks is going to be with us. for a segment, and we're going to be talking about the X Conference coming up this Friday the 13th. And tomorrow night, Tyler Glockner of Secure Team 10 joins us. Yeah, man. Only the biggest on Fade to Black. Wednesday night, it's Duke Sullivan of World Bigfoot Radio. Only the biggest guests here on Fade to Black. Got Duke Sullivan stopping by. We're going to do a night of Bigfoot. Really looking forward to that. Haven't done a Bigfoot show in a while. And always good to get centered again and get some Bigfoot into the action. So that will be Wednesday night. And then Thursday, of course, is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Now, coming up, I just mentioned I'll be speaking at the X Conference this Friday, Friday the 13th. May 13th and 14th is the conference going on this weekend. It's an online event. I want you to go to unexnetwork.com. We'll be talking about that here tonight in just a bit. And I will also be hosting Disclosure Fest coming up June 18th, a one-day event here in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles State Historic Park in downtown Los Angeles. Go to disclosurefest.org for tickets and info. Then coming up this October, I will be in Egypt with Billy Carson and a couple of other things. I want you to visit forbiddenknowledge.com. We've got limited space still available, but this is going to sell out. So if you want to come to Egypt with us and celebrate my birthday in Luxor on October 10th, get your tickets and info over at forbiddenknowledge.com. And now I'm scheduled to be in Detroit in about 4 weeks for the premiere of the Black Knight Satellite movie, and that's coming up. And I'll get everybody information about that. And if you're in Detroit or in the area and would like to come to the event, we'll see you there. And also, I just finished the agreements. I will be in Manchester, heading over to the United Kingdom. Don't get too excited. This is the 2023 event, but I'll be over in Manchester hosting and emceeing the event for 3 days over in Manchester. And I practiced that "Hello, Manchester" for a long time. Then COVID hit and the event got canceled. But now that the world is settling down and we're out of the pandemic, thank goodness, I will be in Manchester in 2023 for the Awakening Conference. Okay, so I'll have more info about that as we move along throughout the year. I know who else is speaking. I know who else is coming from the United States. Oh, yes, it's an invasion. It's an invasion. It's not the British invasion. It's the American invasion of the UK. It's going to be amazing. Okay, the links for everything that I am going to be doing is in the description box below, and we have it up on social media and YouTube. As everybody noticed this weekend, I rejoined Instagram, and I had forgotten that I had an Instagram account. and so I went over. There it was. It's sitting there. And got like 2,000 followers, right? And it's just sitting there. And so I had fun with that this weekend, exploring Instagram, trying to figure it out and stuff. So I think it's Jimmy Church Radio on Instagram. I don't even know. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I think Instagram is Jimmy Church Radio. One word, no spaces. I'll have to go back and check that out. So anyway, I did that this weekend, and I also put out, shot and edited and posted the guitar video for the mini Strat, and that was a lot of fun. It was really cool. Had to get the studio set up for that, cameras and lighting, and I can't sit in this chair. This is not a guitar chair. It's not a presenter's chair. This is a chair that you broadcast radio from. So all of that had to get redone. and microphones. A shotgun mic. I've got it permanently mounted here, so I'm set up with different cameras where I can just I can literally just hit record and shoot a video, and it's pretty cool. Not this setup and another setup, but I've got it all wide. I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is literally hit the record button, and everything goes down. So, and I wanted it to be easy so I can do guitar videos. I want to do guitar videos. I'm going to do a lot of them too. More on that in just a bit. All right. Follow me at JChurch Radio. The Sandbox is hashtag F2B right there on Twitter. I'm looking at it. Where are all of my gifts? Are my gifts here? I missed Twitter tonight. I missed everything tonight. I was goofing around with Micah Hanks. Micah Hanks is going to be with us tonight, and start chatting with him and sound check. And the next thing you know, it's showtime. I was like, Micah, I got to go get my coffee. I can't sit here and chat. All right, let's get to the breaking news. Check this out. This happened last week on Jeopardy. A crazy moment happened last week when none of the show's 3 contestants could answer a very basic question about NASA's new moon program. That's right. The question asked by host Ken Jennings was in the Keeping Up with NASA category, and it read as follows. The NASA program, named for the sister of Apollo, looks to land a woman and a man on the moon by 2024. The question had the maximum $1,000 value for the category. In other words, it was a tough question, right? And indeed, it turned out to be a triple stumper, as none of the 3 contestants were able to invoke the answer, what is Artemis? All that says is NASA not doing an effective job of talking to the public about their new moon program, where the 3 contestants on Jeopardy don't know the answer? That's all I'm saying. I'm going to leave that right there. Speaking of space agencies and Elon Musk, Russian space chief Dmitry Rogozin has apparently threatened Elon Musk. But the SpaceX founder and CEO doesn't seem to be too bothered. But Rogozin, the head of Russia's federal space agency, Roscosmos, had sent a note out to Russian media that said, and I quote, Elon Musk is involved in supplying the fascist forces in Ukraine with military communication equipment. And for this, Elon, you will be held accountable like an adult, no matter how much you'll play the fool, end quote. Sounds like a threat to me. And Elon replied yesterday on Twitter with, and I quote, if I die under mysterious circumstances, it's been nice knowing ya, end quote. Wow. There you go. All right. Well, check this out. I talk about Doctor Who all the time, even though I don't know much about the show. But now we know who will take over from Jodie Whittaker as the next Doctor Who, as the BBC announces Ncuti Gatwa as the next leading star of the show. The Rwandan-born Scottish actor will take over from Jodie Whittaker, who is the first woman to take on the role after her final appearance, which will come in the finale of a trio of specials, which will air later this year. Now, check this out. Kami Rita, a Nepalese Sherpa, broke his own record for climbing up the world's highest peak, reaching the summit of Mount Everest for the 26th time. Officials made the announcement over the weekend. Rita is 52 years old. He first reached Mount Everest and its summit in 1994 and has made it to the top of the world nearly every year since. That's crazy. And you know what? So this is the Sherpa's job for these rich people. They climb to the summit, right? He was up there with 10 other Sherpas this weekend. They climb up to the summit. You know what they do? They drop ropes. That's what they do. They're already there. And, you know, all those rich, whatever, millionaire, billionaires are, they just, the work is already done. And I just find that fascinating. There you go. All right. More human remains have been found at Lake Mead. That's right. Less than a week after authorities discovered the remains of a man in a barrel amid a drought that has dropped the reservoir's water level to historic lows. A witness saw human skeletal remains in the Calville Bay area of Lake Mead around 2 p.m. on Saturday. The National Park Service just announced the Clark County Medical Examiner has not yet identified the cause of death. Authorities said investigations are ongoing, and police warned last week that more bodies could turn up in the country's largest reservoir after human remains were found in a barrel last Sunday. National Park Service rangers found the barrel with skeletal remains in an area near the Hemingway Harbor on May 1st after boaters spotted it. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to do it. I know I mean, people may be thinking this, but I'm just going to say it out loud. I think the mob was dropping off their bodies in Lake Mead. They figured it out. The mob. Just say it. Nobody wants to mention this. You know, I read all these articles. Nobody wants to bring up the mob. So there you go. All right. Thank you, Kaz, for the new Doctor Who. That's pretty cool. Oh, man, I love my River Moon coffee. And there you go. Over the weekend, I was talking to Christina Gomez about the art of making coffee and the pour over. She didn't know what it was. And so she's got the gear now. She's now pouring over her coffee. And it just got me. So I ended up pouring over. I poured over all weekend. This is a pour over. Oh, man. It's a little extra work, but it's worth it. You know, it's pour over number one, no doubt. French press number two, coffee machine number three, in that order. If you got a good coffee machine, you're probably getting away with it. But nothing like a French press and nothing like a pour over. Pour over. Man, I could stop the show right now. No need to do the show. I could just stop, drink coffee. It's tempting when it tastes that good. Let's get the show cracking. On this day in history, 1926, explorer Richard Byrd claims to have flown over the North Pole on this day in 1926, but later discovered in his personal diary, Byrd said that they turned back 150 miles short of the pole because of an oil leak in their airplane. He lied. Yeah. On this day in 1926. Fader fact. All right. You know, all Fader facts are unbelievable. That's why they are Fader facts. And I want you to think, I want you to go and look it up. And yeah. So in March, this is one of those. In March 2021, Mike Winkleman, more popularly known as Beeple, you know, an artist, Beeple, sold one of his artworks called Every Days, the first 5,000 days, as an NFT for $69 million. That's right. An NFT, a digital. So he did artwork for 5,000 straight days, did a piece of art, single art, and then he did a NFT so you can't even see the artwork. It's this big. And $69 million auctioned by Christie's on a JPEG. God, man. Oh, I wish I had something worth an NFT. I have nothing. I have nothing. I have nothing that could be an NFT. I have absolutely nothing. Zero. All right. Tonight we welcome very special guest. Race Hobbs is here for UFOs to the Finish Line. Coming up later on tonight, Micah Hanks will be joining us. And we're going to be talking about this event. Micah's going to be speaking. I'm going to be speaking. And that's going down this weekend. It is called XCon. So we're going to discuss that tonight. And tomorrow night, Tyler Glockner of Secure Team 10 joins us. Now, I think Tyler, I could be wrong about this, but I think Tyler's done one public interview right here on Fade to Black. Tomorrow night is going to be number 2. The man behind the biggest YouTube UFO channel in the world is going to be with us tomorrow night. Wednesday night, Duke Sullivan of World Bigfoot Radio is stopping by. I saw Duke over in the chat room right before the show. It's going to be, Duke said to me, we need like a week to do a show. I'm like, yeah, I know. I get that. So let's compress that into 2.5 hours, Duke. And that's going down Wednesday night. Thursday's another Fader night with open lines all night long. All right. Y'all got some NFTs. I know, right? It just doesn't make any sense. Tri-scale. All right. Someone tweet that, please. Okay. River Moon Coffee, rivermoonwellness.com. Pour over. If you don't pour over, go over to Amazon. Get a stainless steel pour over. There's different qualities, but $15. $15. Get a plastic one, whatever, doesn't matter. But stainless steel's best, no filter, right? Okay. Get one of those and start pour over your coffee. Tri-scale. Every time I see Tri-scale tweet, I think of this. Tri-scale. All right. So I worked all weekend. Man, I got to hit this coffee again. It's too good. rivermoonwellness.com. Fade to Black blend. Oh, good Lord. Is that PC? Is that un-PC? Do I need to be? Can I say good Lord? Sweet baby Jesus. All right. So I worked all weekend. And I think that's rather obvious considering the mini strap video that got posted yesterday, right? Okay. And yes, there is going to be another guitar video each weekend for the next couple of years featuring something different and cool. And whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. They're coming. And it's because it's something that I enjoy. All right. So that's it. That's my new hobby, making guitar videos. That's my new hobby. Get used to it. It's going to be popping up there. All right. But during my time off over the last few days, which is generally late at night, I went through a time travel movie and television marathon. I watched 4 movies, and it also included season 1 of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, which is adapted from Douglas Adams' books, and it lasted for only 2 seasons. But if you haven't checked it out, it's worth it. Go check out Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. Friggin' amazing series, amazing books. Anyway, I watched 3 or 4 50s, 1960s time travel B movies. And when you go in like I did, which is nonstop TV viewing until you pass out, you end up walking, talking, thinking, and dreaming time travel. That's right. The words Einstein's theory of relativity and the time-space continuum, 3 dimensions plus a 4th, time. It's like repeated over and over again. Seriously, it was in all 4 movies, and those schlock 50s, and all the way to Dirk Gently. It made it into Dirk Gently. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. Anyway, here's the crazy part. Most got it right, at least how they are representing it. They really are. And the same issues with time travel were talked about all the way back in 1951, which was the oldest film I watched. But yes, the words were spoken. The same paradoxes were discussed. And it just makes you think a lot. And the first thing is this. Has time travel already been done? Has it happened? As in the now, like today, has it happened? Yeah. Something we're thinking about, maybe. And if it has, it would be a huge national secret of the highest order, no question about it. But what about the future? In that, if it hasn't been invented yet, when will it? Okay, here's the deal. Back to Einstein and something that I talk about a lot, and that is time travel to the future is not only possible, it's easy, right? You don't need a time machine. You just travel really fast. You come back, boom, you're in the future. When you get back to Earth, depending on how fast you were going and how long you were gone, you'll experience the distant future and a world where all of your friends and family and loved ones are dead, right? But you'll get to check out the tech. And the first thing you're going to say, hey, man, have you guys invented time travel? We have, right? And can you get back to now? And so you can talk about the future, right? Okay. And then there's the twin paradox. The twin paradox, which is a pair of twins, both wearing watches. One of the twins takes off in the spaceship and he heads out that way. And there's this thing and his watch versus this watch. And if you could see the watch and this and that, and you come back, and my brain just hurt. And then last night, Dirk Gently, I got to come back to that. It was the riddle with the innkeeper. Forget about the twin paradox. I got stumped last night. The riddle with the innkeeper, which is 3 brothers have 10 gold pieces each, and they go to an inn, and they want a room for the night so they can crash. The innkeeper says 30 gold pieces, right? So they give them the 30 gold pieces. They head up to the room, and the innkeeper says, you know what? I should give them a discount. They're all in the same room. So he brings over the bellhop and says, hey, take these 5 gold pieces up to the 3 brothers and give them a discount on the room. So the bellhop is walking up the stairs. He goes, man, I can't divide 5 gold pieces 3 ways. So he puts 2 gold pieces in his pocket, knocks on the door and says, here's a discount, 1 gold piece each, right? Okay. Now, 1 gold piece each means each brother paid 9 gold pieces each, which is 27. And the 2 gold pieces in the bellhop's pocket equals 29. Where did the extra gold piece go? Right? And so last night, now forget about the twin paradox and time travel and the speed of light and Einstein and the space-time continuum. The riddle with the innkeeper and the 30 gold pieces kept me up all night. I woke up this morning and I decided that I needed to go to the bank. I wanted $31 bills. And the next dinner party I have over at the house, I'm doing the riddle with the innkeeper for real. I'm going to give everybody $10. I'm going to pick out a bellhop, right? And we're going to do this and see where the extra dollar goes. I'm just saying, I was stumped. And that was my weekend. And so much I'm still talking about. I'm talking about it right now with you. Where did the extra dollar go? And okay, all of you brainiacs out there, post in Twitter, I want to see. Post in Twitter. Pop it up in the YouTube chat. Where'd the extra gold piece go? See how smart you are. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Race Hobbs is with us. That's right. It's UFOs and UAPs. Race to the finish. Tonight with Race Hobbs. Later on tonight, Micah Hanks is joining us. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. And Micah and I think Race is just hosting. But we're going to be at XCon this weekend. We'll be talking about that tonight as well. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. I'm going to take a quick break. And when I come back, we'll be joined with Race Hobbs. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Do you have an interest in the paranormal? Then you'll love the unexnetwork.com. The X is your streaming audio and video for everything supernatural, strange, and mysterious, like UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, and so much more. From hosts like Jimmy Church, Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, and Christina Gomez. Visit the unexnetwork.com show page for a complete list of all the paranormal programs you'll find on the X. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for updates at KUNXDB. Follow our Facebook group, UnX Network. Find the podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Audible, and Apple Podcast. It's time. It's new. It's the X.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Manson. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Race Hobbs is here. Race Hobbs. UFOs, UAPs, the race to the finish. Later on, Micah Hanks is going to be stopping by too as well. So it's a twofer tonight. We get both Race and Micah. And Mike is too busy for Race and I. He's like, man, I got like 5 minutes for you guys. And that's all that's going to happen. But Race Hobbs is here. And here's the thing. Race is the program director over at KUNX. We've been working together now for almost 10 years. He has been investigating UFOs for like, I think Race is 75 years old, and he's been investigating UFOs for 70 years since Roswell. He was there for the Roswell crash in 1947. And so his insight on all of this is so important. And having Race on the show with me, a close friend, but when I want to find out what is going on with this race to disclosure, I got to talk to Race Hobbs. That's right. And we're going to do that right now. Race Hobbs. Race, how you doing, my brother?
Oh, Jimmy, I'm good. Let me turn my mic up here. I'll ease into it. You know, I'm good. It's good to see you on camera, man. It's good to be here with you.
Yeah, it's good to be here with you too as well. Here, just to make sure that you get the full effect, right? You get the full Jimmy. Let's go like this. Let me match you. There we go. Look at that. Yeah,
you got a long way to go to make your head as big as this one.
Well,
you're gonna have to zoom right on in.
Yeah, I got that ability now. But see, this is the thing. This is all high def, you know. Now I got to shave every day, and I have to look presentable. I have to wear a clean shirt, you know. And yeah, it's crazy the amount of work now. And it used to be radio. It's not radio anymore. It's a TV production that has audio, right? It's,
you know, and for those of us, and you don't know anything about this, Jimmy, but for those of us who have a face for radio, it's detrimental to our career.
How so?
Because I'm not made for video. I'm not made for video, bro.
And
I had to order a special walleye lens just to get me all in one shot.
Well, you know, they make special lenses that go the other direction. You should get one of those, man.
That's what I need.
Yeah, they're on Amazon, and you be the skinny sucked up race hitting the pipe race. What happened? Was up for 3 days. Dang,
it'd be more like a month for me.
Oh man. So you know, with you know, your work in radio, MUFON research and your race, no pun intended, for answers in this. And, you know, with what the KUNX, the X represents in our community today, are you feeling it? Are you feeling it? What's the race? Is there a finish line?
For me, the only thing about the title of this show is my name, because I'm not in a hurry to get anywhere. The first off, but the big thing for me is, and I really, Jimmy, I wasn't at Roswell. You got to be honest. I don't quite go back that far, but my research goes back, you know, past 3 decades.
Yes, I know.
And investigation goes back 2 decades. And media goes back 15 years in all of this. So if I was to sort of, you know, put everything in one bowl, I would just have to say that everybody that watches this video cast, everybody that hears our voices on it, the only way you're ever going to get the truth is when they want you to.
Right. Yeah. 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 There's no question about that. But if I'm understanding you correctly, is the journey more fun for you than getting the answer?
What a journey.
Right.
What a journey. I have had some really interesting conversations with a lot of the folks that we work with, a lot of our colleagues over the years, and in the last weeks and months even, that have really been super compelling and fulfilling to me to talk with them, to commune with them. But the ride, the hobby, the interest, the very first sparks in you, it comes in a million different ways. You could have been sitting on your deck, smoking a cigarette and saw something. You could have been driving down the road and your car all of a sudden stall out and, it's a big event. It could be a million ways that you get an interest that begins, and where it ends is, it's as vast as your imagination. And at the end of the day, for me, Jimmy, at the end of the day, it has been the journey. The fellowship with people who have a likened interest in what I have. And for back then, dude, something that taboo. And I say taboo like in a legal, moral sense. If the
right,
you got to make that clear. Like, really, family members disown you, friends disown you, teachers turn away from you and don't give you the time of day anymore, professors. It can be tough. It can be real tough, but honestly, that's what makes people like me able to do what I've done for so long, because over that course of time, your skin gets real thick.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. And now you've got a lot of fans out there, Race, and which is wonderful. But for those that have never heard from you before and they're listening to you for the first time, share the beginning of the journey, your first sighting, because two things happened very close to each other. One, back in 1990, you had your moment, and then a couple of years later, you decided to go and start a UFO group in Fort Smith, the Arial Phenomenon Research Group, and take us back to that. What happened in 1990, and what made you go out and start a paranormal UFO group?
Man, in 1990, I was cutting at a radio station, a rock station in my hometown. I was doing a midnight shift. Yeah, come on in, honey. My sweet wife is
that the bird? Is that the bird?
She's bringing me some of that.
Look at that smile. Hey, bird.
Jimmy said, "Hey, bird."
Hey, Jimmy.
Some of that River Moon coffee.
That's what I'm talking about.
Mm. Okay, sugar. Love you.
If you need me, you call me.
Okay, thanks for my phone. Now that is a grandmother, a mother. Had a huge day yesterday as we derail here. She's on her way next door to get more grandbabies.
Man,
she didn't get enough yesterday.
Man. Okay, yeah, let's not get too derailed.
Okay. So here we were.
I mean, grandbabies will derail any conversation. I mean, that's it.
That's
puppies and grandkids.
That's true. That is
guaranteed. Okay. All right. So 1990, you're playing the rock and roll DJ radio lifestyle, right? You're in it in Fort Smith. You're at work. Okay. So what happens?
7 to midnight gig. And I was just running up on the end of my shift, getting real close to midnight. And the phone goes off. And, and back then we had a reel to reel and the phone ran through it. So everything is on speaker. Like, so you just hit a button, boom, there they are. And I'm like, KZ106. And the guy's like, Race. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, dude, there's a UFO right over the top of my car. And I was like, wait. You know, what?
That's
and
awesome.
he goes, listen to me. He goes, I'm on Highway 10. I'm at the 3-way in Spiro and Pensacola, Oklahoma, which is right over the border. And, we're down in the River Valley. If you can imagine, there's mountains up here and mountains up here, and there's a river that snakes right through the middle of them in this valley, and we're in. Okay. And down in this valley, our radio station was perched up on a big knoll, like the highest point in the valley. And so he's like, and he knew where the station was. And, it was so late that he had this event happening to him. And the first person he, thought of to call that late that was up was me. I mean, honestly, when I thought back about it, it was really quick thinking on his part.
Yeah, no cell phones. He's got to pull over. He's got a pay phone.
No. He had a brick phone. He had a brick. He had a
he was a high roller. He was a Fort Smith high roller.
That was a $5 a minute CD.
That was the only brick phone in Fort Smith, no doubt. Okay,
but he calls really. He was wired up. He was wired up pretty tight. And
okay, so what happened?
And so he's like, Race, he says, if you go out, outside your studio and look back this way, you'll see it. You'll see what I'm telling you about. You'll see it. It's right over the top of my car. So I reach up, I put him on hold. I go out the door. I had to go through my boss's office because his office was the main office, and it had a big sliding glass door that went out the back onto this big patio. And right when I got through that sliding glass door, I could see the light. I could see it. It was like a welding light, bright, very bright, but it was, I want to say it was strict. It was just, you didn't want to look at it, but you couldn't not look at it. Sort of like looking at me.
Yeah, that's strict.
And honestly, I was captured by it because the first thing that I really noticed that was kind of really weird. First off, I couldn't see what it was attached to. I could just see the light. But the thing that I noticed was that I could see the light on the foliage beneath it, on the tree canopy and the ground below it. And I want to say like 25, maybe 30, 25 degrees off the horizon. It was maybe, I don't know, it was 5, 6, 8 miles away, but it was moving real slow, just really slowly. And I forgot about the station, what I was doing, everything. I was just caught up in that moment.
Right.
Not moving crazy. It wasn't doing anything erratic. It wasn't deviating from its path. It was as quiet. I mean, it was just there. And it's like, there's a bright light. It's shining on the ground. I can't see what it's attached to. I'm going through this.
How far away from where you are do you think this object was?
It was less. It was, I want to say, less than 8 miles away.
Oh, it's right there.
Yeah. Well, as a crow flies, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because here it's prairie. It's more like prairie landscape.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you can see a pretty good distance in just about any direction, east or west from here, as long as you're not in the trees. And so I'm like, holy crap, I'm radio station. I run back in. It's dead air, static,
Oh, the number one no.
And so I just thought, I've got to grab the longest song that I've got. There was two, You know,
Freebird.
There's Peter Frampton.
Yeah, Show Me the Way.
And then there was one of my favorites was Molly Hatchet, Dreams I'll Never See. It's like a 9-minute song.
Yes, it is. A good one, too.
Yeah, you bet. It was one of my favorites. I listened to it just the other day, but I grabbed it. I knew right where the disc was. I threw it in the Denon and I hit play, and then I grabbed the phone, put it up to my ear. I was like, dude, are you still there? And he goes, did you see it? Did you see it? And I was like, I saw it, man. What the hell was that? You know? And he goes, man, I don't know what it is. He goes, I can still see it. He goes, I was sitting at the light and he noticed that it was bright out, but he just thought it was a full moon. And where he was, there's a street light. It's a 2-lane highway that goes this way. And there's a 2-lane highway that connects right here. And there's a gas station there. And maybe like a Sonic right beside it. And that's about it. That's there. And there's a big arm that goes up with the street light, right? And he could see on the street in front of him, the shadow moving. Like the shadow was moving.
Oh, from the light from the craft. Oh.
From the craft light, as it was moving forward, that shadow was, I guess, pulling to him. And he looked over to his left. There was a couple of trees, and he could see it was definitely moving. So when the light turned green, he pulled through the intersection, and he pulled over on the shoulder, and he got out and he looked up. And I said, what did you see? What did you see it? And he was like, Race, it was a cigar. He said it looked like a big submarine, like a cigar or a submarine, and the light was on the front side of it, and it was just as quiet as could be. It didn't make any sound at all. And I was like, holy mackerel. I said, how big do you think? He goes, man, I have no idea. I don't know how high it was. I don't know how, I don't have any frame of reference, you know? So it was a pretty, for him, it was intense. It was an intense.
Did it move closer to you? Did you ever get a chance?
No. It was moving due east. It was moving from the best I could tell. It was moving due east, right towards a big army base. It was about to fly right over. If it wasn't yet, by the time I realized I had forgotten my job and ran inside, it was probably approaching the border of Chaffee at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so we hung up, and I thought about that for a long time. You know what I mean? Like I was really wondering what that could be. And so, I remember I was at Sunday dinner, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, gravy, corn, rolls, at Mom's, piled high, kitchen table. And I brought it up. And Mom started telling me stories about seeing UFOs over the airport back in the 60s. And Dad was like, oh, that was just planes refueling or whatever. Well, later, my research told me that's what was in the paper. When, hundreds of people saw these objects moving around crazy over, way up high over the over where the airport was, the military the military statement was that they were doing refueling missions over the airport, over the 188 Tactical Fighter Wing. And my dad always remembered. See, my dad, this was very interesting. My mother was Cherokee Indian, and all of her relatives and ancestors, they all believe in sky people. And it's just like they're as real as the air we breathe.
Mm-hmm.
It's no big deal, like, to talk about it in their culture on that side of the family. My dad, he believed in ghosts, but he didn't believe in aliens. He didn't believe in extraterrestrial life here. And I asked him one time, I said, Dad, why is that? Why, how can you believe in, like, ghosts? And then he goes, well, I don't know what the true definition of ghosts are, but I saw one. I saw something that was moving that looked like a human being that you could see through and you could hear it.
Your dad said this.
Yeah. See, my great grandfather, he moved down from Shayburg, Arkansas. I want to say in the 20s. He sold his steel operation, his moonshine operation, everything, to one of his neighbors in like 28 and 29, and he took those. Then the crash hit, and the market, tanked, and money was tight, and he wound up buying a bunch of land. He had 5 sons, and 3 of them were in the military, and 2 of them were in the Army Air Corps, right out there at that World War II military base that turned into a World War II military base. But like, they knew that the Corps of Engineers was about to build a pontoon bridge from a town called Van Buren, which is where I live now, to Fort Smith, and link the 2 cities together across the river. Back then, we didn't have the big bridges and everything yet, So when he found out about that from his son, he knew that there was going to be a lot of business on, coming off that pontoon bridge onto the land in Fort Smith there. So he bought all that land there. Well, on some of that property that he bought, like 500, 600 acres he bought, he wound up, there was an old bar and like saloon there that was from 1800s. It's built in the 1800s. And it was like, it was just like something you'd see in on Gunsmoke, Kitty's place. You have a nice big bar in there, and it's opulent and really nice. Then there's card tables and dining tables and, and all that. And then you go up some stairs, it goes this way and that way, and there's rooms up there you can rent to stay, like a hotel or a guest house or whatever. Well, it was old and kind of run down. And the kids, my great-grandfather built a fuel station that right beside it. And my granddad used to go up there and work, and my dad and his sister and their friends and all used to go over in that old and play saloon, belly up to the bar and that kind of thing. And he said that one day they were in there playing saloon or whatever, and they heard chains upstairs and like footprints, like boots walking on the floor up there. And then it just froze them all. They all just stopped in their tracks and like were listening intently. And he said that you could hear steps coming down the steps, like boots, coming down the steps. And the steps came down, and then they turned and came out into his view. And when the thing got the sound got down where he could, thought he could see it, he claimed, like an apparition that you could see through, very faintly coming down that section of stairs. And they all bolted out of there and never went back in the place. But that's why he believed in ghosts. But
well, that'll do it. I want that race. I've seen things, okay, but I want that. I want the ghost shot, right? The full body, the entity, the human shape. I cannot wait. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It's compelling.
Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to react.
That one I've seen. The UFO, the big manufactured craft that puts you on your ass. I've never seen it yet.
And I have. So what? Okay. So what do you prefer? Would you trade in your ghost, your haunted house that you lived in forever? By the way,
no.
Would you trade that for a UFO?
No.
Really?
Because I know UFOs exist.
Well, I wouldn't trade.
I don't have to I wouldn't have to see one of those in order to, for it to alter my perception about.
Yeah, maybe so. True. But I would not trade my beer can UFO sighting for a ghost. No way.
I don't blame you.
No way.
You a bit.
No way, man. I'll take my beer can and I'll raise you a 6-pack. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, but that was a good sighting.
That was the real. I mean, that still to this day.
Yeah.
I think about it every day, Race, maybe a couple of times every day. What the hell? I'm so glad Steve Murillo was with me and Lucinda and, all of my friends, we were there, but Steve Murillo was right there, man. I got that on video and wow.
I love Steve Murillo. He's an ace.
He's the best, man. Last week I had a dinner party at my house, and him and his wife Pat, when they come over, they bring their cots and they crash up in the loft, and they're set to go. They got their dogs, and they're like, "Man, let's go, let's do some sky watching." And hanging out with Murillo for the weekend. Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, it is the race. The race. That's right. UFOs and UAPs to the finish line. When I come back after the break, Micah Hanks is going to join us. Yeah, so we get Micah and Race at the same time. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Race and Micah after this short break. Want you to stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-TV. VX.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is the fastest growing and one of the most watched networks in the world. I would like to personally invite you to check out our expanding library of TV, film, lectures, and special presentations. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv has over 6,000 videos covering lost history, health, UFOs, spirituality, and our future. We are committed to our community, and with my personal invitation, you can, right now, get your free 30-day membership at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Your own library of information starts today at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Hi, Race Hobbs with the X. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you have an interest in unexplained phenomena like ghosts, Bigfoot, and UFOs. And by now, you know that we have our own X blog, the UnX newsletter, and the UnX magazine quarterly. But most of you don't know that we have started our very own Paranormal Conference. And this year, for safety, this 2-day XCon will be virtual, so you can attend from the comfort of your home. XCon presenters include Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, Hanks, Margie Kay and Preston Dennett, Lisa Martin and Wayne Lawrence, Lee Spiegel, Debbie Zagelmeyer, Dan Terry, Kate Grabowski, and Ray Hernandez. There will also be a live paranormal investigation by the Riverside, Iowa Paranormal Team. So come hang out with us in the safety of home as we set out to explain the unexplained Friday, May 13th and Saturday the 14th, 2022. And tickets are on sale now. Go to unexnetwork.com. That's unexnetwork.com.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Race Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and this is Arial. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and I'm Arial. We're the Honey Brothers, and you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright-Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black.
All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. That's right. We got Ray Hobbs here. He's right there. We got Ray Hobbs. And coming in right now, we've got the one and all. I was going to do a long intro for this gentleman, but let's just get straight to it and say we got Micah Hanks here too. And now here's the deal. I've got the two biggest, smoothest voices in radio on the show tonight, and I'm going to get overshadowed. I had to warm up my pipes during the break to make sure that I could hang with these two gentlemen. Micah, how you doing, my brother?
I'm hanging in there. I'm doing well. How am I sounding? Did I live up to every expectation?
Oh man, I'm telling you, I've got my work cut out for me tonight. I've got to get the proximity effect going, get deep into the diaphragm of this microphone. To hang with you.
It's always good. Go ahead.
Unless it becomes natural for you, and then you don't even have to try. It's simply effortless.
I'm going to watch you two battle for airtime now.
Micah is the one and only mouth of the South. He is the true mouth of the South.
No doubt.
Nobody can ever take that from him.
Ever. You know, years ago, Race, I don't know if you caught this show, but this was a while ago, probably 7 years. I told Micah during the break, I said, okay, man, I want you to do Alex Jones. And when we come back after the break, just go full Alex Jones. And when Micah does this, see, this is back before we were doing video. I'm watching Micah. I'm watching his veins stand out on his neck and his forehead and what he has to do his Alex Jones. But anyway, audience didn't know that. The phone lines lit up. And Micah was in character for a good 5 minutes, man. I had to slow him down and finally to stop the phones because everybody thought it was Alex Jones. And it was radio magic, man. And I had to deal with the email. Micah, I don't know if you realize this. I got an email for like 2 months. That wasn't cool, man.
Oh God. Why so serious?
Yeah, exactly. Micah, you and I are going to be speaking this weekend over at XCon, and which starts Friday the 13th, by the way. What do
Coincidence? Probably not.
I know. What are you going to be? What are you going to be presenting?
Well, normally these days, as you know, as your listeners know, when you and I get together, we're talking about UFOs. And my only regret is that, Jimmy, look, we have some really great conversations, but when Hobbs and I get on the call together and start talking about that, it's a whole nother nightmare of its own. But it's like Dulce Bass level 7, but or Mario Brothers level 8, one or the other, sure, not sure. But the thing is that for this occasion, Margie K actually said, listen, I want somebody this weekend who will talk about Sasquatch. And she said, I know you take that subject seriously. And asked, would you do a lecture about that? And it's kind of an interesting thing. Alejandro Rojas and I were talking earlier today about, for those who have read Skinwalkers at the Pentagon by James Lukatsky, co-authored with George Knapp, the legendary journalist, and Colm Kelleher, who had worked with the National Institute for Discovery Science under Bob Bigelow, and had worked, with him for a number of years. Those who read that book will note that they say, Lukatsky primarily, look, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Application Program, it was a UAP program, but scientifically speaking, we did not want to go in and color what we were studying with our biases and say, we're only looking for what might be advanced aerospace vehicles, and so we're going to narrow our scope. No, they said, look, all kinds of things were being reported out there on this ranch in Utah, and on the outside chance that there were any relationships between the various kinds of phenomena, we studied all of it. But it was a UAP program. Now, all that to say, one of the things that they claimed that they experienced out there at Skinwalker Ranch were, quote unquote, and this is how it appears in the book, Bigfoot creatures that were seen on the property. Now, I don't make any connections between the UAP phenomena necessarily and Sasquatch, but there's a commonality in the way that I approach both those topics, and that is that we put so much emphasis on the government, the U.S. government, the federal government primarily, but also this comes down to the state level, different governmental agencies and the way that they approach the UAP issue. So I started looking at that, the Sasquatch question from that perspective. Who has filed FOIA requests? Are there government reports? Is there any data from credible government sources that relates to a seemingly incredible and frankly what many would categorize as a preposterous topic? And lo and behold, to my surprise, there's very little information, but there's some. I have now interviewed park rangers who have worked in national parks, who have been employees of the Department of the Interior, who have said, I never would have believed in this kind of thing until I saw it myself. I've uncovered accounts of government trained geologists, biologists, rangers, as aforementioned. Of course, the FBI had a file on Bigfoot, which was the result of a request by a researcher named Peter Byrne, who asked the FBI to analyze some hair samples back in the 1970s. Those files, by the way, were first released by our mutual colleague, John Greenwald. There are a lot of interesting, maybe not necessarily smoking gun type documentation, but interesting documents from various agencies. And then also, I've gone through the process of appealing to, on an individual state-by-state level, numerous states using the, it's similar to the FOIA process. It's known as Public Records Act requests. Each state has a different name for it. But I've reached out to different divisions of wildlife and similar forestry and wildlife agencies in different states and asked for files and documentation. In one instance, in a state that has an abundance of sightings, I befriended the park naturalist, and he shared some documentation. And again, much of this really comes down just to people being interested, researchers doing things, and claimed of sightings. There was one instance, though, where state records were sent along to me that purportedly involved a strange handprint that was left on a vehicle, which, to my interest and satisfaction, remains, questionable. I mean, I can't say this was a relict hominoid, but it certainly is a very interesting specimen, we'll say. So all that to say, Sasquatch and government has become an interest of mine. And the main thrust of this is essentially that government agencies say and do as little with this as possible. They try to ignore it. They try to avoid it. And here again, the commonality being that it's very much how the UFO topic is treated until it gets to a point where the government has so much pressure on them that they can no longer ignore it. due to citizenry or even elected officials placing, how would we say this, Race? Leveraging pressure in Washington, perhaps, maybe would be
That's
an eloquent way
exactly
to
how
put
I
this.
would put it.
Yeah, leverage, I think, is really what it's all about, But no, all kidding aside, I mean, seriously, the idea that UFOs have kind of broken this glass ceiling in recent years, and now many elected officials, many government agencies, whether by choice or by pressure, are having to look at this. I don't think it's inconceivable, based on the testimony I've received from park rangers and other employees of the United States federal government, that could happen with the claimed relic hominoids, as scientists like to call them, or what we would commonly call Sasquatch.
You brought up John Greenwald and his publishing of the manual, right, for the park rangers, which had this page in the manual talking about the testing that was done, and now I'm paraphrasing here, I don't have the page in front of me, but that the testing was done and it wasn't human, it wasn't any known species on planet Earth, something that dramatic in the manual when discussing Bigfoot and Sasquatch. So Greenwald goes, now once he's on the trail, right, he's got a sniff, he knows that there's information out there, there was testing was done. And I believe John and I talked about this last week, once again on Fade to Black, and they came back with, I want to get this correct. If I don't, Micah, maybe you know a bit more, that the results from the lab testing were lost.
Well, you hear claims about that kind of thing a lot. Now, the FBI files that I'm not sure about a Park Service manual, but I know that with the FBI files that, and really quickly, the backstory on this was researcher David Paulides of Missing 411 fame had asked John, listen, have you ever tried appealing to government agencies about Sasquatch? And John said, well, actually, no, I haven't. So let's try it. And I tell you, John, it's like when he files a FOIA request, I mean, it's like, he's shaking the dice and he's throwing, and he's like, it's like watching a person in a casino who really knows how to gamble and is really skilled and really good at it. And you're like, is this person spoofing us? Does this guy actually have some mutant power where he can cause the dice to roll and land a certain way? Because John has such skill, and can file FOIA requests that researchers have tried to get to blow open for years. And John knows the method and the path, whether it's, filing what's known as a mandatory declassification review, or, just an appeal on a FOIA that, has been rejected for various reasons. John has tremendous success getting this stuff. And so, yes, he appeals to the FBI. And for as far as I know, the first time in history, got a fairly significant, series of documents related to the FBI, who said, essentially at the request of Peter Byrne was the Irish-born researcher who was known to, I mean, if you ever watched In Search Of and some of the documentaries from back in the 70s, right, Race? I know you did.
Unmistakable voice.
Yeah.
I can recognize his voice anywhere.
Yes, indeed. He just had that very, very regal voice. And to me, Byrne always brought a credibility when he discussed the topic, because he was this gentlemanly guy. He was a former big game hunter who had given up the gun and had become a conservationist, and he was a protector of wildlife, but especially as a result of his scientific expeditions throughout the Pacific Northwest. And not to forget that prior to that, he'd also spent time in the Himalayas conducting investigations and expeditions in search of the famous Yeti, the purported creature similar to Sasquatch that allegedly resides in that part of the world. And these were funded by a wealthy philanthropist and oil tycoon, Tom Slick. But, Peter, by the way, Peter is in his 90s. He's still alive. He still lives up in the Dalles in Oregon. And I called him and interviewed him a couple of years ago. And he remembered the plane crash in the 60s when Tom Slick died, and how he almost got out of the research after that. But all this said, Peter was just an icon in the field. And so many people who've watched In Search Of in these shows will remember him. And it was studying Sasquatch really that kind of, I think, probably brought him away from the hunt and onto a different kind of a hunt where he never carried a weapon ever again. In fact, he was a very no-kill researcher. He advocated using tranquilizers and things like this. He even had a very novel system in the 1990s during was a Boston-based science organization that was funding his research at that time, and he had insisted that he wanted to use darts that would be injected in, like, you would shoot this dart into the creature, the specimen, presumably a Sasquatch. What would happen is it would be like a little dart, a non-invasive technology that would actually eject a small sample, right, a tissue sample, without harming the creature, because he wanted to be able to prove their existence without doing what science normally calls for, which is harvesting a body, right?
A biopsy dart.
Probably, yeah, something. Yes, essentially that would.
The problem with that is, if you don't have a body, what good's the DNA? Because there's going to come a day where junk DNA is going to be the new Walmart of the genetics world, if it's not already.
And the other thing too is that, many biologists, even those who are not even willing to entertain an idea like and this seems like an outlandish proposition, but we could talk about some evidence here in a moment if you like, which I think is important to do, especially when it relates to government employees who have claimed to have had these experiences. But even the more skeptical biologists, I've been a part of some ongoing at various times when my schedule allows for it. As you guys know, I've been traveling outside the country for the last couple of months. Woo! But when my schedule allows for it, I try to network with and communicate with scientists, some of them skeptical but interested at the possibility, and then some who are proponents based on what data they have seen for the existence of relic hominoids, i.e. Sasquatch-like creatures. But all of them share one thing in common. They basically say this is how science works. As biologists, there must be a type specimen. Even if you collect DNA, and like you were saying, Jimmy, if there were anomalous samples that couldn't be conclusively matched to a known specimen, just because you have an unknown doesn't mean you've solved the mystery. You have an unknown sample. What we would need would be a type specimen in order to prove that Sasquatch exists. And then there are some who have even argued that with a single type specimen, the most skeptical scientists would say, well, this first one was just a genetic freak. We would need more than one to prove that there's a breeding population and that this is actually a species.
Right.
Right. So it gets very convoluted. But, coming back to and again, many of the skeptical ilk take issue with the idea of anecdotal evidence. But I think if there's one thing that we've learned from the recent UAP dialogue and the government involvement with the UAP investigations with the Airborne Office, AOI, let's see, Airborne Office, never mind. Let's just stop. We can never remember the name, but that new DOD component that's looking into these things, that brings some weight to the dialogue on account of the fact that the government is taking it, the phenomenon seriously, and that presumably based on their sensory data, the testimony of personnel, and that's key, and then also the national security implications of the apparent presence of an anomalous phenomena that cannot be accounted for with conventional known technologies. That seems to lend some weight to this argument. So coming over to the personnel angle here for a moment, if we have trained National Park Service personnel who are not Sasquatch believers, who never would have believed in this kind of thing, but some of them, albeit cautiously, are coming forward and saying, look, we have seen these and we believe that there's a good possibility that there actually is an organism out there, something human-like that has remained undiscovered. The question I would put forward is, does that not necessarily have any more weight to it than, again, the claims of the crazies? And again, I don't call witnesses crazies, but this has been the argument of skeptics for years. Well, everybody claims that they see these things, but we know that they couldn't exist because there isn't enough food. There's no way that they would remain undiscovered. Again, what happens when we have Park Service, Department of the Interior staff saying we saw these things too? This is exactly what Action Jackson, aka Bob Jackson, the retired park ranger who patrolled the thoroughfare out there in Yellowstone Park for many, many years, decades, in fact. This is exactly what he claimed happened. He was leading a horseback tour out of a portion of the thoroughfare, and he said that his horse began to react, and he was certain there must have been a grizzly bear nearby because, horses are very wary animals. Their eyesight's very good, and they can detect a grizzly bear. This is how they have survived, for the thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of years throughout evolutionary history. I mean, they have evolved to be aware of what's happening around them. And his dog or horse began to react to what he perceived was a grizzly bear. And he looks down into this meadow down the hill from where they were riding their horses. And he says that out of one end of this little thicket, a deer shoots out and goes. And he says, well, I expected to see the grizzly come running out any moment. And to his surprise, out of the other side of the thicket and down in a diagonal direction toward the next nearest grouping of thickets and brush, he said, walked on kind of more like it ran, but it didn't run like a human, but it was on two legs. He said a large, dark-colored, hairy biped of some kind. And the way that it moved differently from a human is how, if you watch a person, Jimmy, if you or I go jogging down the road, we kind of carry our arms up here, He says this thing, its arms swung and stayed straight. And he said it would be a very awkward style of locomotion for a human, but he said that this thing ran diagonally straight down to the next brush. And initially he's thinking, did I just see what I think I just saw? Now keep in mind, there are other people on horseback behind him. And then he says it darts out of the brush again, makes another diagonal jump down to the next position of cover. And then he realizes this is certainly not a grizzly bear. Now he says, I watched grizzlies. A grizzly would have gone off in one direction. He would have run on all fours. He would have just made a straight line to try and get away as fast as he could. This creature, on the other hand, not only moving bipedally and moving unlike a human, but he says it moves from position of cover to cover. He says it was intelligent and was aware of the fact that it was being watched and was moving to positions of concealment. So after this happened, he was convinced, okay, there's something in our national parks that I had been completely unaware of. And in that region, again, for those who aren't familiar with what the thoroughfare is, this is essentially the area furthest from any road in the contiguous 48, and Yellowstone being one of the larger parks. There are larger parks in the United States, but it being it's large and it's remote, and that's the more important thing. Jackson, what he did was he patrolled the thoroughfare on horseback because there are no roads in those portions of it. He was looking for people who were poaching, illegal campers, things like this. But on at least a couple of occasions, he also heard a strange, long, moaning vocalization that he couldn't identify either. Now, I haven't interviewed Jackson myself. He has spoken about this in interviews and some of them also appearing in print online. But I have spoken to two other park rangers in correspondence, and one by telephone who didn't want his name released, who've also had experiences and looked into these cases in Yellowstone Park, which led me to reach out to their public affairs office and ask them, okay, I know this sounds like a crazy proposition, but if your park rangers claimed that they had encounters with something that you guys couldn't identify, what would the protocol be? How would the National Park Service respond to this? And here's what they say. They say, because we don't believe Bigfoot exists, we're not going to answer that question because we don't have any plan. We don't expect to ever have to have one. So, that's where we end up. How do you move this dialogue forward when there seem to be very credible professionals who in their line of work as United States government employees claim that they saw something that shouldn't exist? And the authorities in the relevant park service or other agencies, they say, we don't have a plan. We're not even going to talk to that effect because we don't believe that this thing exists. I mean,
that's not the truth. That's not the truth.
No, it's not the truth. And I'm going to go right now. This is my reaction to that. Park rangers are just as trained as FBI agents, right? They are no joke professionals, period. And there is no way that a park ranger goes through all of that training to become a park ranger. You are a professional, period. Right. There is no way that Sasquatch and Bigfoot are not discussed in that training. I don't buy that for a second.
Well, I mean, there's two things. Number one, it's going to attract the people they don't want in the park, and it's going to send people away from the park that they want to bring to the park. Because I'm going to tell you, park rangers, Game and Fish Commission, those guys have massive jurisdictions. Most cases, they have more jurisdiction than like sheriffs and police and county constables and even state police.
They're dealing with
highly trained people.
Black bears, grizzly bears, buffalo, bison, rattlesnakes, whatever, right? Every aspect of what you are going to encounter in the wild is part of their training. And I'm telling you, I guarantee Bigfoot is part of that training. It would have to be. Those guys and gals are not caught by surprise. They are true professionals, of which I have the greatest respect for. But to say, to say that No, we don't believe in Bigfoot, so we don't. We don't have any product. Stop with that.
Just go look into missing 411. David Pilates has laid out some really beyond unreal cases that those very same authorities have to deal with on a regular basis.
Which has been very controversial for the Park Service, as I understand it. For instance, of course, filing FOIA requests related to Sasquatch. And in many instances, I don't even use the S word when I file these FOIA requests. I've tried to not to be ambiguous, but I've tried to word it as, how should I say this, as responsibly as possible and as credibly as possible in an effort to try and, for instance, okay, why does the military call UFOs that have been called UFOs for more than half a century UAP all of a sudden? Oh, well, there are all these stigmas. So in some of the FOIAs I've filed, I've said, I'm looking for any material evidence indicative of a possible unrecognized animal, possibly a large biped, evidence, including but not limited to footprints, hair samples, recordings of vocalizations. And of course, if you send that, they'll get back to you and they'll say, we need you to be more specific. And I'm like sitting here going, you know what I'm talking about. I know you know what I'm talking about. But they play the game. And
I have to jump in, Micah, and say, because you are who you are, you have to stay over for another segment. I wasn't planning on this, but we are in the middle of this conversation. And if I just cut this off, thank you, Micah. We'll see you this weekend for XCon. Then I got to deal with the email and the text.
The truth is, Micah, I'm all these guys. So you got to stay. You got to keep that on.
You got to carry the weight. Let's take our break right here. Right now, in it with Ray Hobbs and Micah Hanks, and we're going to keep this going. That's all we can do. And we'll be right back after the short break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and this year, June 18th, 2022, the Disclosure Fest Foundation presents the Mass Meditation Initiative. It's Saturday, June 18th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., one day only at the Los Angeles State Historic Park in downtown Los Angeles, California, right next to Chinatown. I'm hosting the event again this year with music performances by Trevor Hall, The Desert Dwellers, Poran Key, and many, many more on 4 separate stages. There's 16 stages in total, over 30 acres in downtown Los Angeles, with vendors and tents and presentations and workshops with Billy Carson, Adam Apollo, Lori Spagna, Laura Eisenhower, Brad Olson, David Palmer, and many, many more. It's all simple to do. Just go to disclosurefest.org for all of your tickets, information, and a full schedule of the day's events. Again, disclosurefest.org. Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fadernauts, when you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm here with Jimmy Church. During the break, I'm watching Race play air drums, playing the cymbals. Cracked me up. And over the weekend, I shot this guitar video. And I was looking at doing some test shots with lighting and stuff. And I had somebody over here helping me with the cameras. And I started looking. I was like, man, I need to work out. So I can't present myself like that. So I jumped on, my magnetic bike and I did a bunch of sit-ups. And I was like, man, this is nothing. I can work out every day. And I cranked out probably 50, 100 sit-ups. And I was, last night, I was like, oh my God, I can't walk. I can't stand up straight. And during the break here in the studio, I went over to I can't stand up. My stomach is so sore. I think I'm done. I think the whole workout thing lasted one weekend.
It's a wrap.
And I was talking to Micah Race earlier today. Goes, Jimmy, it'll be done, by tonight. You'll be fine. No, I'm not. It's so funny. You work out like that and you look in the mirror and you're like, yeah, I look bad. No, you don't. You look the same as you did yesterday.
But that's the thing. It's what it does for your mentality. I mean, for me, I always exercise.
And you are skinny, good looking, and young. Save anything that you were about to say to Race and I right now has no relevance. Just stop. Stop.
All right.
It
ends right there.
I would love to. Yeah,
look at him. Yeah, he's gorgeous. He's always had it.
Micah's
always will.
Micah is a player. So, seriously.
No.
Oh man, Micah Hanks. So anyway, let's get back to this discussion, and I think it's a very serious one. And Micah, oh, by the way, I sent both of you guys a text. So my old man body, right? I can't stand up straight, but I came back in, got my coffee, came back in, and I looked at the studio, and I went, oh man, and I snapped a pic, and I sent it to both of you guys. And is that gorgeous or what?
Wait,
that is gorgeous.
You got two of them?
I had to go back and get a second one. Yes, I did. I haven't announced that yet, and so I'm going to do a couple of videos. But yeah, I got
show it real quick.
Micah already did during the break, but here's the deal. Take a close look at that pic. My old man body can't stand up straight. Look at the pic. It's crooked. That's why I told the story about it. I'm like, I can't even stand. I can't even.
You got to stay with it, Jimmy. You got to keep
man
working it out.
And that's what I love about the two of you guys, though, because during the break, Jimmy's texting me pictures of guitars and flying saucer pictures and stuff. And then meanwhile, Race Hobbs is calling me. Just being on the air together isn't enough. He's got to call me on the phone during the break and keep talking. He doesn't want to miss a minute.
Micah.
Not a minute.
I miss you.
I miss Micah so much, man. He's one of the funnest guys out there.
Man, look, you were talking earlier before we get started. Man, there were times years and years and years ago where Micah and I used to be on Skype for all night.
Oh, yeah.
And Micah is such an entertainer. He is such a talent. He is so good at these voices.
Makes me laugh.
Does.
Oh, yeah, he makes me laugh.
Look.
And he knows it too, though. See, that's the problem with Micah. He knows he can make you laugh and keep the attention. He's been a ham bone his whole life. I bet you his family is so tired of this. Micah, the ham bone.
But it ain't just that, man. You can watch him lecture for hours on these topics that we love. And then you can watch him play the guitar and play his nitro grass, and he can sing. And he can do cover songs like he was the one who wrote them, and he can tell jokes and do stand-up. This kid will never be a one-man band. He will never be a one-trick pony.
No, he's not. He's not. Hey, Micah, so we've got a group of people at the house. We got 20 people. We're cooking out. We're doing the thing over here at Casa Day Church, and you're there, and I come out with an acoustic guitar, right? I come out with the acoustic telly, and I hand it to you. I hand it. Yeah, isn't that nice? Look at that, man. An acoustic Telecaster. That is sweet. So I hand you this guitar. What's the song that you pull out of your pocket for everybody there? There's going to be one song that you know you're going to kill it. What is it?
Well, it's either going to be Working Man Blues, Merle Haggard, or Master of Puppets by Metallica. Somewhere in between, maybe, but usually it's one of those two. Yeah.
I was thinking something like Little Pink Houses. You know, Johnny.
No, that wouldn't be.
Mellencamp.
Whip out some Mellencamp.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know what? I could see Micah doing Cracklin' Rosie, Neil Diamond,
Stairway.
What it'd probably be actually would be like something like Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits, because interestingly, first of all,
the hardest thing to play on guitar and to sing at the same time, but for Micah, that's nothing. I just said for Micah.
For Micah. Yes, indeed. I've never heard that joke before.
Yeah.
The thing about Knopfler, though, is Knopfler, being a finger player and doing this sort of a Chet Atkins hybrid kind of thing where he played, there's that lick at the end, and he's doing that all like with his finger and his thumb, and it's remarkable to watch him play. But there's this video online of Dire Straits back in the 80s, at their prime, and he gets up there and he's doing these breaks and everything, and he looks over at one of his buddies, and while he's playing, he's just like, and he gives him this, what kind of a grin it was. I'm not going to say here on the radio.
You can't
know what kind of grin it was.
But I can't.
And I had an old buddy. Back in radio, my supervisor, who was also a guitarist, John Anderson, and he had this expression. He'd say, "If I could catch you, I'd hit you." And that's what Knopfler makes you want to do when you see him. He's so good, and he's just standing there just grinning while he's playing, looking at his buddy, and if I could get you, I'd hit you. But so damn good.
When Knopfler was at his peak, when everything was clicking, he was probably the best guitar player on the planet. He had about a year run right there where it all came together for him. And if you go back to, the first album, with Sultans of Swing, of course, second album, Communique, which was incredible. But that wasn't his best stuff. you know, a couple of years later when, you know,
Brothers
money
in
for
Arms.
nothing. Yeah. Woo,
Yeah.
man. And it all came together for that brief moment where the stars and the moon and everything hit for him. And when that marked, he was probably the best, man. He was probably the best on two legs.
I mean, how many guys can you listen to who can play a clean Stratocaster in a Fender Twin and get that Sultans of Swing type tone on the one hand, and then he can switch over and have a really distorted
nasty
Les Paul playing Money for Nothing? But I mean, here's the other question: who ever made a Les Paul sound like that? When you, and again, whether technically you would say he's the greatest ever, the thing is, he was arguably the most distinct sounding guitarist. When you hear Mark Knopfler, whether he's playing a distorted Les Paul or a clean Stratocaster, you know that it is Mark Knopfler. There's no question. And that's the thing that really hooks him, in my opinion. Because
you know who else hit it for me? Somebody that didn't quite get his due, David Lindley.
Oh,
David Lindley, again, at his peak. And, you know, a slide finger player with crazy distorted tones, right? Crazy sounds. Played with Jackson Browne forever and all those classic guitar solos on those James Brown. That was David Lindley. And very distinctive singular tone when everybody else is trying to be, you know, Richie Blackmore, they're, you know, Ted Nugent, they're just Santana, Jimmy Page, Eddie Van Halen, whatever. David Lindley was doing his own thing, just like Mark Knopfler. See, we can do guitar talk all night. We got to get back to Bigfoot. And I want to get back to Race's point. You can watch Micah do a presentation and just be dialed in. And Michael's presentation, Micah's presentations on UFOs have evolved over the years. Let's talk about Bigfoot. Has Bigfoot evolved in the same way as UFOs and aliens and ET and contact has?
Well, that's kind of a difficult question. You know, Jimmy, you've always said that my UFO lectures have evolved over the years. And I think, you know, as you've, and again, we'll get back to Sasquatch because I, you know, understand the parallel here, but I mean, I should say that rather than becoming, you know, coming from more skeptical to more, you know, an advocate for the study of UAP, I've always seen it as I have been questioning of paradigms. And so the paradigm, the you know, one of the prevailing paradigms with regard to UFOs to use, and I prefer the UFO expression. I mean, I'll use preferentially at times UAP when it's appropriate.
I'm keeping it real. I'm not changing that. Just
I'm a UFO guy.
Yeah. And, you know, and Alejandro and I were talking about this. Jason McClellan said it best a few weeks back when he and I were talking. I asked him, which are you? And he says, well, look, I'm a UFO guy to the end, because if you say UAP, what do you have to say after that? You know, UFOs. So it's like, let's just cut out the middleman.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I actually, to try and, you know, to make an attempt at an eloquent argument for why I maintain UFOs, it is simply this: for the better part of the last century and more, we've continued to call them UFOs. But and so, in acknowledgement of the historical phraseology that's been used in most of American history, and being a researcher who's, you know, work probably emphasizes the historical component on UFO studies, which is important in order to frame the modern context in which they're being studied, I continue to use UFOs. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. And to hell with your stigmas, I'm sorry, they're UFOs. They can also be UAPs, though. I don't care. Now, all that said, I've always challenged paradigms and people's notions of, well, this is what this is. And for years, I had a publisher write to me once, because I was, you know, debating some nitpicks about, you know, UFOs and phraseology. And he says, well, at the end of the day, none of that matters, Micah, because those other things aren't spaceships. And that stuck with me, because I always wondered, well, but how do we know that the UFOs that we're looking at, the so-called valid, you know, anomalous aerospace phenomena, are spaceships necessarily? What proof do we have of that? And yet, of course, that idea has been a prevailing dominant theory in ufology for decades. And so one of the challenges that early on, when I got interested in this topic and really trying to speak about it, and to the points of epistemologically, in a philosophical sense, you know, how do we really know what we know? that was one of the big challenges, was how do we address the reality of a phenomenon, but also address the fact that we've got a lot of biases, a lot of attitudes that are presumptuous about this phenomenon. So the skepticism that I think you detected early on, Jimmy, was me being skeptical of the let's lead with the presumption that these are extraterrestrial. Whereas I've always been an advocate that there is a valid phenomenon that represents the sum total of the UAP issue. Now, in more recent years, of course, many researchers, but I too, have not only looked at trying to frame the historical debate in support of the modern UAP dialogue, but also in recognition of the material that has been coming out with regard to detection through sensory systems in use by the government. And again, this comes back to and this is the commonality between the two subjects, Sasquatch and the UAP issue, the testimony, because I don't think we've got sensory systems that are detecting Sasquatches, but we certainly do have United States federal government employees who claim to have actually encountered both respective phenomena. Mm-hmm. When it comes to Sasquatch, if there's been an evolution, it has been me going from how do we make the argument, for instance, to a biologist or a zoologist that this is something worthy of being studied. And now, in many ways, I'm looking at this in that government component too and saying, well, if we have people who, by virtue of their qualifications and their training and by virtue of their professions, by virtue of, whatever security interests they are protecting, again, a national park ranger is protecting and ensuring the security and the safety of the areas where we citizens are able to go and enjoy these protected wilderness areas. So they, of course, as and in many capacities, there are also many different people in different branches of law enforcement, civilian police officers, federal law enforcement agencies, et cetera, who have also claimed to have had these encounters. But they too, especially, in fact, are those who uphold and maintain safety in public places. So we may all enjoy and feel safe while enjoying these places. If these people are claiming that they are having encounters with things, an animal, for lack of a better term, but one that is more like a human than any other known animal, does their testimony not hold a certain degree of weight, just like we would say an FA-18 Super Hornet pilot who claims they've encountered an anomalous aerial phenomena also seems to hold weight? And I think that that's why the government side of the UAP issue has carried the dialogue so much, especially since 2017, because a lot of people, again, and I'm going to paraphrase the late Stephen Hawking. Jimmy, you and I have talked about this. We love physics. We both respect Hawking. But I've, to my core, disagreed with that statement that he would issue in his speeches where he, through the voice device speaking, on his behalf, he would say, we discount in the search for alien life the claims of UFO witnesses. Because why, if aliens were visiting Earth, would they only show themselves to cranks and weirdos? Two problems. Hawking was leading with the same presumption that many of the UFO cultists, to borrow John Keel's words, used, that this is obviously, if we're talking about UFOs, we're talking about extraterrestrial visitors. Even Hawking worked on that premise. And of course, then he also stigmatized it and said that only crazy people see these things. Are our pilots, our Navy pilots, are they crazy? Are the military servicemen and women who have said that they've encountered these things, who have tracked them on radar, who have locked onto these with their at-FLIR targeting pods, after the Navy upgraded to the Raytheon phased array radar systems, and they began to detect things in our airspace, operators like Kevin Day and who's our other guy on the Princeton, aboard the Princeton with Kevin Day. They'll come back to me. Gary Voorhees, my man. Mm-hmm. But when Gary and Kevin are locking these things, restarting the system, thinking they're having a malfunction, and then they restart it, and then bam, they turn the system back on, get it online, and they're still detecting these things. Are they crazy? Are they cranks and weirdos? That's just the point. The American people hear the accounts of people like Voorhees and Kevin Day and Commander Dave Fravor and Alex Dietrich, and they say, wow, our best and brightest in the line of duty have had encounters. Now we take this seriously. My message is, ladies and gents, there have been people in that line of duty who have had the same experience in our national parks and other wilderness areas who have said they've seen a bipedal hairy hominoid that they can't identify and which has been relegated to the realm of myth and legend. Should we not give them the same benefit of the doubt when they say they've seen these things?
Absolutely.
You have to. You have to.
Now, that's not physical evidence. Now, listen, let me be clear. I know that's not physical evidence. That's not enough to convince a physicist or a biologist or a chemist. But in a court of law, and this argument's always made, but I think it's a relevant one, and that's why they make the argument, right, Race?
That's what's most important.
If in a court of law we can sentence a person based on testimony, right? I mean, I think we should at least consider, and again, it's not just, Park Service Rangers, there are members of the military who also, there was a gentleman I spoke with who was actually participating in a controlled demolition, I believe in Washington State, in a military testing range. And after a detonation that they had, a controlled detonation that they had actually undertaken earlier in the afternoon, they're coming back by the area where the explosion had occurred. And he said, I could not believe what I was seeing, but he said that there were these 3 large, hair-covered humanoid shapes that were out there, which his perception had been that these had been attracted to the sound, to the noise. And when the explosion happens, they're like, what's going on? And so many, 15, 20 minutes later, when they're coming back by the demolition site, he sees these things out there. And later his commanding officer comes up to him and says, did you see anything out there? And at first he didn't want to even talk about it. And then his commanding officer said, because I sure did. And later they both came forward and actually spoke on the record about the fact that they said, yeah, for lack of any better descriptor, we think we saw Sasquatch out there that day.
Man. So are you out of the closet then on Bigfoot, Micah?
Well, as much or as little as I am on the UFO topic, again, here's the bottom line, Jimmy.
Can you answer directly and not be a politician?
Look, the weight of the evidence compels me to believe that there's a phenomenon worthy of study. Now, I don't leap to conclusions about what I think it is, i.e.
that is quintessential soundbite.
Yeah, it's just
nail that to Micah Hanks and ride with it, Jimmy, because we were just talking, we're coming up on the anniversary of the death of Stanton Friedman. He was another guy who nailed those sound bites down, and he made them work.
You know what his was too? Don't bother me with the facts. My mind is already made up.
Or do your investigation. Don't do your investigation by proclamation.
Yeah.
The 4 of us, Micah, Race, myself, and Stanton, we did a conference like 10 years ago together. Yeah. And I was sitting at his table with him. Now, check this out, coming up on the anniversary, right? And I made a video today for Ryan Sprague about, around celebrating Stanton. Anyway, so I sat at that table. You guys know what I'm talking about. I sat there at his table and went through Project Blue Book with him for like 2 hours.
Special Report 14.
Yeah, man. How cool, and he had, he's got, he's autographing them and he signed one for me. But I was able to sit with Stanton and just go page by page and discuss things with him one-on-one. And it's one of my most treasured moments of my life. It was just great. Okay.
Let me correct this. It's do your research by investigation, not proclamation.
Not by proclamation, yeah.
But Micah, you had a good trip with Stanton besides you.
Yeah, in fact, the same weekend that Jimmy's talking about, I fly into LAX and I got jet lagged because I was up at like 5 a.m. And by the time I arrived there, it's a beautiful like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, because I've just jumped over 2 time zones. And my mission, should I choose to accept it, was to find a famous nuclear physicist in LAX and then jump in the back of the Charger and ride with him up into the mountains. And so our driver picked Stan and I up, and we had a long ride together and a stop in Riverside to have lunch. And God, we talked about everything. And I tell you, we talked about MJ-12. We talked about Philip J. Klass. We talked about Alan Hendry, who had been the employee at the Center for UFO Studies. We talked about Cash Landrum. We talked about everything. And I'm going to tell you, Stanton, this was maybe, what was it, Jimmy? This was 2016, so just a few years before he passed away. But
yeah, 2015 maybe.
Yeah,
I have a picture. I'm going to jump in here before we run out of time.
Yeah, sure.
Race, I have a picture of Micah, Stanton, and I in my hotel room standing next to the hot tub Remember that, Mike? We had.
We were in the John Wayne room.
Yeah, I had a hot tub in the middle of my hotel room.
That was the room that John Wayne always stayed in when he went up to Big Bear.
Oh,
was it really?
Yeah.
Was that it? It was John Wayne's suite.
When I booked that whole conference, I helped organize that whole thing, and we put you there for that reason.
Yeah, that was, and that picture, man. If I would have known we were talking about it, I would have had it ready to post because it's classic, man.
Yeah, it is.
And didn't we? I think you were there, Micah. We stayed up till we closed the bar that night with Stanton Friedman.
Yeah, we did. Well, he went out eventually, but yes, you and I, entertaining Fadernauts, stayed until very late, and we entertained not only Fadernauts, but we entertained you and I a very mighty bar tab, I do believe.
Yes, we
Which
did.
That's standard for
Stanton said, I love picking up the tab. Stanton said that night, it said, Stanton, order whatever you want. And he did, right? He got surf and turf, come to the table. I said, but you have to drink a martini with me. Oh, no.
Yeah, he wasn't really big on the
No,
drinking.
but he ended up toasting and taking a sip off of a martini with us that night.
Yeah.
And
he was a people's person is the thing. And that's the thing I love about him. Linda is the same way that, they will stay till the end of the conference. They will talk to everybody. And
Linda, she'll go through some wine. Man.
But the thing is at that conference, Linda was there too. And, Linda is always at a table until the final hour talking to people, not like other researchers. I mean, they're researchers, but mostly conference attendees. And she's a person for the people. And, I always appreciate when I see people who are like that, who would much rather just be talking to other people. There's a difference between those kinds of researchers and then the ones that you can tell that are just trying to be on television and things like
that's true.
this.
That's true.
And I know we're up against a break, Jimmy, but I want to circle back around because in the very first segment, we talked about the journey, right? And for me, it's that fellowship, those experiences that I have had the privilege of sharing and being with those that I've come to adore. That have made all of this worth it in the end.
You're right. And Micah brings up a really good point, and so do you, because that tiny little get together up in the mountains that year, it was small. Mm-hmm. It was with Linda, Chase, Micah, Dolan, Stanton, myself, Race, George Norrie. Right. And you think about that for a second, and we were all together breaking bread and hanging out. And that friendship, that circle, that's a bond that'll never be broken. And you're right. That is part of the journey. And anybody that was there, the couple of dozen, right, that were there. Whitley Strieber walked in the middle of.
He sure did.
That was a memory because we're sitting on stage during the panel discussion. Stanton and I were side by side, and he leans over. Micah, is that Whitley?
Yeah, it was. You were on stage, George Norrie. I had the mobile microphone. You remember? Yeah. And I walked up and I went, Whitley.
He was
that was a great weekend. I got to jump to hey, Micah, I'll see you this weekend for XCon. Thank you so much for taking the time tonight. Great conversation. Hey, Race, you're running the show. I'm letting you know that we just blew through the commercial break because of Micah Hanks. MicahHanks.com. Follow Micah on Twitter at Micah Hanks. I only know that because he's got it right there. Micah,
I'll make it easy for him, ladies and gents.
We'll see you this weekend over at XCon. Thank you so much.
Probably you'll see too much of me. So, guys, good night and good luck.
Thank you, Micah.
Micah Hanks. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I'm here with Race Hobbs. That was Micah Hanks. We'll be right back after this short break with the race to the finish line. That's right. I'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse. KUNX-DB. The X.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? UNX Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX-DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of Forbidden Knowledge, and we're heading to Egypt this October. Come join Jimmy Church, myself, and the Forbidden Knowledge team as we spend a week exploring Giza, the Great Sphinx, the Great Pyramid, Saqqara, Dashur, Aswan, Edfu, Dendara, Karnak, and we'll celebrate Jimmy's birthday in Luxor. The Forbidden Tour of Egypt is this October 5th through the 12th and includes a 4-day Nile cruise, expert Egyptologists, and a chance to explore Egypt with Jimmy and I as your host through your journey of a lifetime. Space is limited, so make your reservations now. Please visit forbiddenknowledge.com for information and complete itinerary. That's forbiddenknowledge.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and this year, June 18th, 2022, the Disclosure Fest Foundation presents the Mass Meditation Initiative. It's Saturday, June 18th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., one day only at the Los Angeles State Historic Park in downtown Los Angeles, California, right next to Chinatown. I'm hosting the event again this year with music performances by Trevor Hall, The Desert Dwellers, Poran Key, and many, many more on 4 separate stages. There's 16 stages in total, over 30 acres in downtown Los Angeles, with vendors and tents and presentations and workshops with Billy Carson, Adam Apollo, Lori Spagna, Laura Eisenhower, Brad Olson, David Palmer, and many, many more. It's all simple to do. Just go to disclosurefest.org for all of your tickets, information, and a full schedule of the day's events. Again, disclosurefest.org.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer and UNX Networks. Raise Hobbs. I want to thank Micah Hanks for coming in tonight. He was supposed to come in for one segment, and I could just let Micah and Race run the show, which is probably what I should have done. I should have just taken a break tonight, let those two guys, two professionals, handle things. I want to thank Micah Hanks, MicahHanks.com. And follow Micah on Twitter at Micah Hanks, the absolute very best. And our guest tonight is Race Hobbs. And, the race to the finish, with UFOs and UAPs. Race, I want to get back to, don't think I forgot, our discussion that we opened up the show with, which was the sighting that you had in 1990. Yeah. And then 2 years later, in 1992, you start the Fort Smith Arial. What was it called? The Fort Smith Arial Phenomenon Research Group.
Yeah. It was a very unorganized early on, and it was just a small group of people that I had come to know that became aware that I had an interest in this. And working in radio was a big help at the time. Oh, by the way, real quick, I wanted to tell everybody, because I was talking about that sighting that started it all. It wasn't Highway 10. It was Highway 271. When you leave out of Fort Smith heading south on 271, you'll come into a highway that's 112 that comes up and meets it. And right there where 271 and 112 is in Pensacola, Oklahoma, that's exactly where he was when it happened. Because I had a bunch of people in chat that were DMing me and everything. So I just want to make that clear where you guys could go look on a map and see it. And our studio was on 0 Street, just right across from the Fort Smith Regional Airport. So you can really get a good shot of, the line of sight that I had that night.
So when you get your group of friends together, how many were in the Fort Smith Arial?
There was 3 of us at first, and then we went up to 8, 9, 10 folks that used to meet on the regular, and we would have barbecues and sky watches and things like that. And it was a really small, tight knit, because a lot of times these folks would come and go, because it can get quite monotonous. You know what I mean? Like it's very, very rare that you find active cases to investigate back then. You had to cast a net. People had to know you were there so that if something came up, they could say, "Hey man, get a hold of this guy," and that's how it worked. That's how we did it.
What did you learn from that experience early on? Getting a group of people together and their different takes and viewpoints on the subject. What did you learn?
Man, it made you. I think it was a very rich experience, to be honest with you, because there are so many different. As there are so many different aspects to the subject of those 3 letters. There's implants, there's crop circles, there's abductions, there's so many different elements to the UFO term. And 99% of it for us was sightings. And, the part that I was talking about people coming and going, Jimmy, is those that would be the people that would have sightings that would find us, and then they would want to hang out with people that had a likened interest. All too often, when you hear about people, how did you get involved in this, and then they tell you a story about how they had a sighting and that kind of thing. It's really stimulating at first, but then it sort of kind of loses its luster after a while. So the ones that stick around are the ones that have a true passion, and the ones that have the tenacity, like a John Greenwald, a young kid who found his way in a niche that nobody else was really doing like that. Nobody had set up a website, a public forum for that kind of work, really, that I was aware of. I know that there were APRO and some others had these databases and these things, but they were a tactile deal. You had to be there and put hands on these things to go through it. And, there's just not a lot of people that knew a whole lot. Newsletters and journals were huge back then, huge. And you could get in the back of a magazine of an Omni or whatever, of a MUFON journal or whatever, and just start filling out everything because you wanted to try to have your inbox, your mailbox full of literature and research and information to be able to stay up on top of kind of what's going on. But it, the different personalities and the different thought structures were, they were real. It was compelling to deal with so many different people. And that's what kind of made me, I'm just naturally I never meet a stranger kind of person like you. I mean, you and I we could walk up to a sister like a nun, and we could sit down and have coffee and talk for hours. And we could do the same thing with a race car driver or a horse trainer or whatever. And that made it a lot easier for me to be able to shut my mouth and open my ears, these big old ears I got.
Now,
and that's what made it work.
How did you end up finding MUFON? I've never asked you that question. So you've got this, this little group going on in Fort Smith. You've had your sighting, and then eventually MUFON enters the picture. When did that happen? How did it happen?
Actively, it happened in 2007. But I had a couple of guys in the group who were subscribers to the journal, back in the 90s. And, so we had MUFON information in our clique, every month. And, but I never utilized any, any of their training when it came forward in the very beginning, because, they used to be comprised of mostly former, law enforcement and military and trained officials. And, these cats, a lot of them didn't really take too well to it when, when the information came down the pike that they were looking at going civilian and teaching and training civilians to do investigations and research and to get more active and to grow the organization. And this was all explained to me by some of the guys that had come to hang out in our group and work in our group and research in our group and contribute. And so I was literally, I had just come in from mowing the lawn. I took a shower. I sat down. I was drinking some tea, and there was a UFO Files episode that had started before I got to the TV. And right where I turned it on was where they were talking about the Mutual UFO Network having meetup groups all over the place. And they were training, and they talked about how they did it, and they featured it in one of those episodes. And Robin had sat down, and she was watching it with me, and she was like, "Honey, we ought to look and see if they've got one in Arkansas." And so,
where did they meet? Was it Little Rock or was it up in Fort Smith?
They actually met in Northwest Arkansas, up in Fayetteville, where the University of Arkansas is.
Ah, got you. Okay.
That's where the state director, he's from a town, Tawny Town up there, and they were holding meetings up there. And they had a very small group down in Fort Smith it was withering, I'll say. At one point, it was a pretty strong group, but some of the folks that were running it, were getting up there in age. A lot of these folks were. And I got on the computer. I looked up MUFON. I read for hours and looking at the cases and all that. And I looked up, where, the state of Arkansas. I got the state director's email. I emailed him. He emailed me back. Then he called me, and he came down and met with us at a meeting. We all met up at a meeting in Fort Smith, and there was about 5 or 6 people there. And they
this was your group.
That's the group that I wound up, taking over. Yeah.
Oh, no. So this wasn't.
This was not. By this time, we had dissolved our group.
Okay, gotcha.
By this time. Yeah. This time I was doing archival research and library stuff and getting to know the internet and working on the internet through the mid and late 90s. After 2000 was when I had a career change, and I had met Bird in 98, and we got married. Well, we didn't get married. We lived together as though we were married. And I was all of a sudden, in a ready-made family. She had 2 kids, one 11, one 8, son and a daughter. And, you know, I was a full-time dad. And so all of that UFO stuff kind of took a back seat to, you know, going to skate parks and, you know, baseball games. And I coached church league baseball and boys club football. And, you know, it was just family stuff then for several years. And then it was in 2007 when it all kind of reignited. We went to this meeting, Robin and I, we wound up joining MUFON. And I really thought that it would be cool to add to my investigation and research and, you know, knowledge base, my skill sets, and just sort of add what they were willing to teach you to it. And I learned a lot.
Yeah,
you know?
this is you and I have as many conversations as we have. We've never talked about this. How long did you become an investigator?
Not right away. I was kind of skeptical about it at first. And to be very honest with you, they were kind of strict with the requirements. And I was a little nervous about it because I had a arrest record from when I was a kid, from when I was young, like 18, 19 years old. And so I was worried that was going to hinder me from being able to be processed through as an investigator. Well, after talking to the state director about it, because he was really adamant, he was like, Race, you are a sharp guy. You've got a great personality. You would be a vital asset to this group. He said, what's the problem? And so I told him, and he said, well, you know, what happened? First thing he was like, did you have any violent crime offenses, any drug offenses, any sexual offenses, and this and that? And no, just criminal trespassing and, stuff. And so he was like, well, do you have any paperwork or documentation? I said, well, all I've got is a letter from the state that said I did everything they told me I had to do, and I haven't repeat offended in, however many years, and congratulations. And they expunged your record. When you're a first time offender and they pass sentence on you and you do it, and then you never repeat offend or go back, they wipe it off your record. He said, send me a copy of that. And so I did. And then I wound up taking the test, and he bundled all that together and sent it up to Dave McDonald's up there in Kentucky, and they processed me through. And I was an investigator in 2008.
So what kind of cases were you given in MUFON back in 2008? What I mean by that is, what type of sightings? Do you remember what was going on back then?
Well, like when we were actively investigating reports that would come in through the CMS, because MUFON developed this new case management system, a digital case management system where people could report online anonymously. And the moment that they hit enter and uploaded that case would go to the corresponding state upon which it was reported. That state director would then take a look at it, find the corresponding location, and then disseminate it down to the closest investigation acquisition that they, the main part was the efficiency, how they could acquire a case and then disseminate it right down to a really close proximity, and then get someone there within 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And so when we weren't doing those, we were researching. We were finding book authors and people who had experiences and the like. And we were literally researching, calling them up, reaching out to them and that kind of thing. But the cases mainly were lights in the skies. Arkansas would maybe get on a good month like 7 reports. Sometimes they would have pictures that would accompany them. And even more rarely, they would have video. But you kind of honed your interviewing skills. Like one time we had some really cool pictures. They were multicolored, like worm looking pictures. And the case report had that the guy had bought a new Canon EOS Rebel, and he had it set up on a tripod, and he had like open exposure, just ripping off like 700 shots at a time. And then he would, open the exposure up longer to a longer exposure. And inside like 30 shots that he took in the course of, an hour were these 3 pictures that had these squirrely, colorful lines in them. And we were like, holy shit. And there was a lot of buzz kind of about those kinds of that kind of photography that was taking place at the time.
How many investigators in 2008, state investigators, were in MUFON in Arkansas?
In 2008, probably 20.
20.
15,
so
20.
You get 7 cases in. Were you getting a case per month, or was it every other month?
If that, yeah.
Right. And so
it wasn't always, I was in the West Central section, right on the border of Oklahoma and Arkansas.
Right.
There was a group up in Northwest Arkansas. There was a group over on the east side, the northeast side in Jonesboro. There was a group in Little Rock and one in Hot Springs.
Well, so this is my question. So you get a case, right? Yeah. You're waiting, you get one. And now you get to investigate, right? You jump in the car, you go out, you do an interview, and you go on location.
Yeah.
Right? You're going
on some of them, but most of them you didn't. Most of them you could take care of it with a phone call.
Okay.
To be honest with you. But like this one I was explaining, we drove 2 hours south down to Mena to look into this case, my chief investigator and myself. And, we were really impressed with the witnesses, with him and his wife. And we looked at his camera. He gave us the chip from it and the SIM card and everything. So we had everything we needed to get, to get the EXIF data and everything that we needed to make sure these pictures were in sequence the way he said and the whole bit. And so I went out to the edge of his property and was snapping photographs, of the lay of the land in a 360-degree circle. And it was up on the side of a ridge full of trees and some clearing. And then I went and got my video camera to take video. Just followed the same track I was just on. And I was taking video and I was looking and the breeze was blowing and something caught my eye up in the tree. And it was one of those like round helicopter, like a cross with a circle around it. And you would put like a zip in it and you would pull it and it would helicopter.
Right. I remember those. Those were actually pretty fun.
I spent 2 hours getting it out of that tree. I finally got it out of that tree with a fishing rod, wiggled it out of there. And what I needed to know was, did it illuminate? And it did. So there you go. It's cases like that. And he was like, gosh, it had to be little Johnny, his kid was out there playing with his little thing and his camera caught it and he didn't know it. And they were so apologetic because I had to go in there and tell them, that I had found this and that I really thought that this could be, so could they or would they be willing to go to town with us and have some dinner, let the sun set, and come back and try to replicate this? They did, and we did, and we solved the case. So, it was a lot of really rewarding experiences.
There's nothing wrong with that. I bet you that makes you feel pretty good.
Well, the chicken fried steak and white gravy was off the hook.
Yeah.
I mean, I've literally made the trip down there to that place to get their cinnamon rolls.
So, okay. Before we're going to head to a break, we'll come back to overtime and we'll get to the end of the finish line today. But I want to share this with you, Race. Last month, There's a famous chain here in Los Angeles, hard to find. It's called Tom's, TOM''S. Tom's number 22, Tom's number 30, right? Okay. I've never had one close to me. I found one. And do you know what's so great about Tom's?
Chicken fried steak.
Chicken fried steak. They have biscuits and gravy.
There you go.
You can order eggs, ham and eggs, and hash browns any time of the day with a side of biscuits and gravy, chicken fried steak, whatever. And it is so on my life. 2 weeks ago, the day that I found the restaurant, right? Okay, I had to finish. I'm driving, singing. I'm going to Tom's and I'm getting chicken fried steak and gravy. I'm going to. I thought I need to shoot a video of this. The joy I had in my heart that the rarest of the rare in Los Angeles County is chicken fried steak and eggs with sausage gravy. Doesn't exist. I got it, man. Just like
that's awesome.
3 blocks away. Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, the one and only Ray Hobbs. And you know what? Somehow I knew we would get chicken fried steak and eggs into the conversation. We're going to overtime. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, it is UFOs, UAPs, the race to the finish line with Ray Hobbs. More with Race and getting to that finish line when we come back. Stay with us. This is Fade to Black.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is the fastest growing and one of the most watched networks in the world. I would like to personally invite you to check out our expanding library of TV, film, lectures, and special presentations. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv has over 6,000 videos covering lost history, health, UFOs, spirituality, and our future. We are committed to our community, and with my personal invitation, you can, right now, get your free 30-day membership at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Your own library of information starts today at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, the X.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? UNX Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX-DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unexmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unexmedia.com.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right. 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of forbiddenknowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to forbiddenknowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today and use coupon code 30 days free. That's coupon code 30 days free on forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JamieChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Man, watching the chat room during the break, man, you guys have lost your mind. Lost your mind. Grits. See, here's the deal. Okay, our guest tonight is Ray Hobbs, supposed to be talking about UFOs, and that chat room will dictate the direction of this show, Race. And here's the deal. Growing up, when the Quaker Oats instant oatmeal came out, in the 70s, those were glorious times. Right, the apple oatmeal. Oh man, apples and cinnamon oatmeal, the maple oatmeal.
Never had it.
And slow your roll, Race. Slow your roll. And so, but my mom would buy that cream of wheat, right? Okay, and it took a while. I was probably 4, and get the bowl of cream of wheat in front of me. I don't know what to do with it. And I one spoonful was, I think it was the only time I have ingested cream of wheat in my life.
Oh.
Couldn't do it. And so this was what followed. No, oatmeal all day long, man. I'll eat oatmeal cookies. It doesn't matter, man. I love oatmeal, any form. And the art of milk and brown sugar and the ratio, and nothing like hot oatmeal with the milk, and then you could half and half, and so it's not hot. The whole thing, there's an art to it. Loved it.
Yeah.
Cream of wheat. No. And so when grits sort of entered my life for the first time, and I remember seeing it and things, and I think I tasted just like a little, once. No, that's not me. Hash browns all day long. I can't do a side of grits, and never will. I don't even know what a grit is.
Omni grits, it's corn.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
It's corn. Like, if you had a little kernel of corn and say you dropped it in a cup of water,
mm-hmm.
and it swells up and makes hominy.
Okay,
you've heard of hominy, right?
I've seen the can.
They're sort of like chat, help me out. What is the crunchy corn
nuts?
Corn nuts. That's it.
Okay.
It's a corn nut, but it's soggy. And right in the middle of the heart of it, it's just this little grit. It's just a little seed-like little thing, kind of. And that's where grits come from. It's just a big
Well,
pile of those.
how does it get to that paste?
You steam it. You cook it and steam it, and it takes about 20 minutes. And you
It
add
breaks
butter
down?
and you butter and sugar to it, or you can put cheese in it. Man, grits are the business. They are the business, man. I mean, that is a staple down here in the South where you get stuck in the mud.
I've seen my cousin Vinny.
You get stuck in the mud, you wander to a diner, and there it is. Just like in my cousin Vinny. Them's hominy grits. I'll tell you something about cream of wheat real quick. They made chocolate, dude.
Is cream of wheat grits?
I don't. You know what? That's a good question. I don't know.
No, it's wheat. Okay, and grits are corn.
Oh, I've had it. My mom bought it. You know, we had it from time to time. But they made a chocolate version of it, and I'm like you with that. Like I was able to eat the cream of wheat, but the chocolate version, forget it. And I'll tell you, I'll never forget when I didn't eat it. I just put my bowl on the counter and went to school. When I came home from school, it was still there,
waiting for you,
and it was like cement. Like you could have took a butter knife and you couldn't penetrate it,
man. And so I'm cool with hash browns. That's fine, man.
Business too. My daughter, she is a huge. I think she's got some Russian in her or something because she loves potatoes in any form.
Yeah, so do I.
And she makes the best mashed potatoes on earth.
I did. You know what I did today? For
what
lunch?
Did you do, Jimmy?
Can I just be honest? And this is my new slim and trim body, right? All those,
all them, yeah.
You know what I did today? You know what I did today for lunch?
What'd you do?
I did garlic mashed potatoes and meatloaf.
Stop it!
I did.
I've got a friend that's going to make me my favorite is au gratin.
Yeah,
a good friend that's going to make me some one day that I can't wait.
Well, I did that. We had a party here last month, and I cooked all the meats, but I had everybody select a dish for them to bring. Right, so and
that's the way to do it.
Right, so we had string bean casserole, green bean casserole. Oh man, right. Anyway, Lisa Frith, everybody knows Lisa. She made scallop potatoes. And oh man,
they're my favorite. Scallop potatoes are the best.
Man.
There's an art to it too, man.
There is.
Right.
There is. No, there is.
Scald on that cheese, you know.
Yeah, there's an art to making it. There's an art to eating it.
Yeah, without scalding your ass. Yeah, that's true.
Man. All right, let's get back to UFOs before we run out of time. So here, after and aliens, ET, and scallop potatoes, there's a connection, and I will show you how to do that right now. Is your journey, 1990, then 1992 with the Fort Smith Arial Phenomena Research Group, which I love the name. Then through MUFON radio, running networks like you do today. Did you have any idea that this journey would end up with what is happening today with the Department of Defense and pilots and the Senate? UAP, UFOs being mentioned in the White House press room last year, which was a mind-blowing moment for me. I think it probably had to be the first time in the press room at the White House on live television that you heard UFOs spoken into the microphone. Did you have any idea that this journey would turn into this?
That's what we all hoped for back then. But by the time it got here, for me, it was far less impressive.
Why?
I honestly thought that you go back to 2001 to the National Press Club, the Disclosure Project. I think that was far more rich and impactful than anything they said. far more, man. When you had those kinds of people with those kinds of credentials, those kinds of backgrounds, those kinds of vetted testimony, you can't beat that. And it's something that every one of you can go back and look up and really absorb it. You know, Master Chief Salter, there's so many people there,
right,
that were in very well-placed positions at the times they were there, from the NRO, all the way back to the Army Air Corps. And you just, their level of testimony, their level of believability for me it's paramount. You don't get any better than a Gordon Cooper. They don't, a true American hero, a man that when he talks, you listen. A lot like a Chuck Yeager or somebody like that, guys that did it their way, put their lives on the line for their country and for me and you, for us. It just doesn't get any better than that. Because for me, honestly, I don't believe a damn thing the government says. Nothing. Unless they roll a crash craft out and bodies that can be scientifically, put the scientific method to that stuff in front of us all and transparent. And we know that this is not some genetically created thing in a lab somewhere underground,
right.
30 floors, something that you guys made up. The Aero car, they were just trying to create stuff that looked like UFOs. Everybody's seen the disc dropping away from a high altitude balloon and these rockets fire and cause it to start spinning. Well, you can create technology, that they may be trying to gyroscopically, create, something or test something or whatever. But when it looks like a UFO and it's laying in the dirt, they'll go ahead and perpetuate the myth. When I first got started, I never imagined that the government would perpetuate a UFO myth to cover up secrets that they were trying to do.
Sure.
And once you realize that that's a reality, it kind of cooks your noodle, and then it's on to the next level. And so over 30 years down the road for me, I'm a lot like most people probably that get here. You're a little bit calloused, to just the normal stuff you hear and see on TV and in the news. For me, you're going to have to roll it out. You're going to have to roll just like out there where you live, where they rolled that bomber, that stealth bomber out there on Palmdale from Skunk Works. They're going to have to roll out a real authentic UFO. We're really going to have the evidence to see it, because we're in a technology race, whether people want to believe it or not. And they're never, look, there are here. Look at me. We know that there are departments within the U.S. military complex that have no oversight whatsoever, and they have a bottomless pit of money. We know that without any doubt. No president is going to walk in and say, like Eisenhower did, I'm going to walk the First Army down there and we're going to open that whole base up unless you come tell us what's going on.
That's right.
We don't have that kind of cojones anymore in our leadership. We have no more true generals and real leaders anymore. We've got the best politicians the world can buy in this government, in my opinion. And I just don't, in a world, and most people believe, just like I do, that they BS us and they don't tell us the truth. And for most of it, they've got good reason not to tell us. Because the truth is, when we almost lost the race to get the bomb, if the Nazis had gotten it a month before us, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. We'd be in the Sixth Reich by now. And, our military leaders and our political leaders, they probably got together in some back rooms with some cigars and some whiskey and said, we can never let this happen again. We can never let ourselves get this behind again. Or somebody is going to sneak up on us and do us and take us over. Because, look, people can say what they want about America now. We've been the superpower for all this time now. So, all the wannabes want to make us out to be the evil, we're the Nazis now. We're the evil ones now. There's no country out there squeaky clean. There's just not. And at the end of the day, we could have walked across this earth and took over every country, and there's nothing any of them could have ever done anything about it. But that's not what America is. That's not what its people are. Right. We've been given all these labels, and the truth is we're not that kind of people. But the enemy is within, and our the intelligence apparatus and the military industrial complex cannot afford to let us know the reality, the true reality of what they are trying to do that will ultimately keep this land protected and its people. Hopefully. As long as we continue to breed morally correct and strong-willed, kind-hearted, compassionate people, hopefully our leaders will follow suit. But they're never going to tell us the truth about, even though we have empirical evidence, we have admissible evidence. We have physical evidence. We have instruments that can detect changes in the environment where these things come and go. We have instruments that can detect them flying around in our atmosphere. We've seen them from visuals in the air, visuals in the ground, on radar in the air and radar in the ground. And there it is. And it's doing things that defies our known laws of physics. And we can't explain how it's intelligently operated. Who's doing it? Where are they from? What are they doing here? What do they want? Where are they based out of? It's a reality that we can prove. So I think it's just up to us to try to, try to assimilate that thinking into a greater volume of people. And then later that reality into a greater volume of people. Because for me and you, Jimmy, we came out of the space race. We were born in it and we came out of it. And so our programming that came out of Hollywood gifted us the imagination of space and what could be. Honestly, it's not about, you don't have to convince us that it's a reality. You don't have to convince us it's true for us. But when that reality hits you and the reality sinks in and it absorbs down into your soul, that I'll give you a good example. When Travis Walton, whether you believe him or not, when he explained how he felt when his eyes focused on their eyes and the sheer terror, the shock that ran through him as he absorbed the reality that this is not a human being, this is something else, and it has intentions that I'm not sure I'm physically or mentally capable of dealing with in this second. And he snapped. He fight or flight kicked in and he snapped. That's what it makes me feel like, because I've been doing this a long time and I've thought about this. I've thought about how I would feel if one was standing right in front of me, looking at me. How would I be able to how would I be able to handle it? And for me, it'd be a lot like, you're standing in the woods and you're listening to the trees and the birds and the wind, and you turn around and there's a 900-pound Kodiak grizzly bear 4 feet away from you, gazing right through you. And you don't know if he's just gonna, give you the, a knuckle crack head on and say, be careful, or if he's gonna, take you on. And for me, it's a terrifying thought. And that is something I think that they have all too well considered when it comes to human nature and really how we exist in a comfort bubble that we don't take too kindly when it's tilted in any way, shape, or form. So I think they're doing it for all the right reasons. Everybody wants to know the secret. Everybody wants to know the truth, but nobody wants to admit the fact that they can't handle it if they were told it.
Yeah, that's one of the issues when you have, Gary Voorhees and Alex Dietrich and Dave Fravor and the other crew members, step forward. Even that part, professional military testimony about this, wasn't enough for Capitol Hill and the Department of Defense and the agencies to have the courage to step forward. It's almost there, right? But actually crossing the line, it's too much of a reality check for most. Our community's fine. Our community is going to deal with it just fine. I think most of the planet knows that we're not alone in this Milky Way of the universe, which is something I'm going to be talking about at XCon on Friday night. I don't think that the planet, they know, right? They're smarter than that. Politicians having to go and have this reality check. And not only that, Capitol Hill and state actors around the world, but the agencies and the FBI and the Department of Defense to step up and discuss this in a very frank sense without masking it behind wordplay, right? And it's almost there, man. It's almost Bill Nelson from NASA was probably one of the only directors, the administrator of NASA, to actually go where he went. I mean, he went right there. And that's how close we are today, Race. I think we are approaching the finish line. We haven't crossed it yet.
Yeah. And let me say this real quick. I know it's a good thing to see that politicians that really weren't exposed to this much before, that have been, and that have really had their eyes opened up to the reality of it, and they see how much now that the popular support is there for it. I think that can push for a lot of disclosure, a lot of, let's just say, a lot of confirmation. Okay. But what would the military industrial complex truly turn over? Up to this point, they have just played with us. And, but that's a big part of why we are having the XCon. I mean, from Bigfoot to UFOs, we've got a lot of really cool people that have done a lot of extensive research, from photographic research and video research to documentary research. people like Micah Hanks, who we heard from and always do. He comes to visit here all the time. He is such a bright and sharp guy. Whitley Strieber is going to be there. Ray Hernandez is going to be there talking about his new book coming out from his new group, which is amazing. Lee Spiegel's going to be there talking about he's the only man to ever bring this subject before the United Nations. And there just might be a path back to the United Nations for this subject. So come on, folks, go over to unexplained.com/XCon and pick up a couple of tickets, man. One for Saturday, one for Friday, and hang out with us. I'm going to MC it. Of course, Jimmy's going to be there. It's going to be, and with gas as much as it costs and expenses and food and lodging, oh my gosh, you're going to save so much money by doing a virtual event with us that, all that money you saved, you can pick one of your favorite events and go hang out with Jimmy in person later.
Race, thank you so much, man. And thank you for being the leader that you are for this community. We all owe you a big chunk of debt. And I'll just say thank you on behalf of all the Fadernauts and everybody that's listening and watching right now. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And we'll see you over at XCon this Friday and Saturday. Friday the 13th. I'll be speaking Friday night. And again, just go over to unexnetwork.com. I put up the links in social media all over the place, and also in the chat room earlier tonight. And I'll see everybody on Friday night. Race, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Jimmy. And thanks to all the Fadernauts. I love you all. And thank you for the kind words. They're bragging about my voice now. So I feel better.
I'll talk to you. Race Hobbs, everybody. Race is the absolute very best. What a great show tonight. I do want to thank Micah Hanks for coming in and also spending some extra time. He was just supposed to be here for a segment. He was here for 2. Thank you, Micah. Micah will be there also at XCon this weekend. It's all simple to do. Go to unexnetwork.com and click on the events or conferences, and it'll be right there. So I'll see everybody Friday night. I will see you back here tomorrow night. We have Tyler Glockner here from Secure Team 10. And as far as I know, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty confident about this. He's done one interview, and it was on Fade to Black. Tomorrow, his second. Tyler Glockner here tomorrow night. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Pomernay, Dennis and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitola, Mark T. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast owned a copyright of 2022 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I want everybody to have a great, safe, fun, amazing rest of your evening. We'll see you tomorrow night. Until then, it's time to fade to black.